It's Tuesday afternoon, 4 p.m. in Central Europe, and it's Space Café Web Talk time. Our Space Café Web Talk, 33 minutes with Dr. Anna Christmann, will begin soon. Thanks for joining us for our talk today about the European Space Summit 2022 and a review from a German perspective. As always, we appreciate your participation and ongoing feedback. SpaceWatch.Global is a Europe-based online platform for information in and about space and new space activities in a geopolitical context. And I would like to thank all of our private and corporate supporters that showed their commitment to keeping our independent journalism alive. We really appreciate that. I know many of you are already familiar with our website, the bi-weekly and daily newsletters, and the Space Café podcast. So our latest one featured Martin Wazowski, the chief futurist of SAP, and I need nothing more to say, just give it a listen. He is really awesome. For all our fans of audio content, we have also new episodes on the Space Café radio, on the road in Brussels from the EU Space Conference with Niklas Ninas and with Günther Hasinger. A few more will come this week. We also keep our fan shop open online for you to support us actively and become a Space Watcher. If you have missed any of our previous web talks, we have an archive available on our website in the events section and on YouTube. So, with Germany's new government, Germany also got a new federal government coordinator at German Aerospace Policy. What is the official title? With large footsteps to fill. And she was appointed the first week of January this year, and I'm very happy and very privileged to have her in my Space Café today. So a very warm welcome, Dr. Anna Christmann. For all of you that doesn't know Anna so far, she is a German politician of the Alliance 90, the Green Party, who has been member of the Bundestag, the German parliament, since the 2017 German federal elections. She studied political science at the University of Heidelberg and received a PhD from the University of Bern in 2011. And she subsequently worked at the University of Zurich. From 2013 until 2017, she served in various positions at the State Ministry of Science, Research and Arts of Baden-Württemberg, and in Parliament she has since been serving on the Committee on Education, Research and Technology Assessment and the Committee on the Digital Agenda. She is also her parliamentary group spokesperson on technology and innovation policy. In addition to her parliamentary work, she has been serving as a coordinator for aerospace policy at the Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Climate Action in the government of Chancellor Olaf Scholz since 2022. And now she is in our Space Café. Anna, a very warm welcome here.
Hi, good to be here.
So, first of all, congrats to your new role. I mean, I can assume that the last 7 weeks did not leave you so much room to breathe, but welcome in the global space environment. And we see it from our audience. We had far over 100 people that registered to the event. So at least people want to know about you.
Yeah, I'm happy to meet everyone, and I had a very warm welcome in the space community. That I can really say. I had a welcoming call from the ISS, from Matthias Maurer, and very, very interesting first meetings at the EU level, and we're going to talk about it in a second. So I'm very happy and enthusiastic about my new role.
Great. So one of the accelerators that the ESA DG Josef Aschbacher promotes is the Space for a Green Future. And this seems to be a perfect fit for you being in the Green Party. So how do you see the role of, especially now, Germany's space activities fighting the climate crisis and the price it comes with?
Yeah, I mean, many people ask me now, there is a green politician now in charge of aerospace policies. Is it a problem for aerospace policies? No, it isn't. I think it's a great chance because the question of climate crisis, climate protection is so important for me as a green politician and also for the whole new government, that we really see the chances that come with space. And I mean, we wouldn't know as much about climate and climate change and climate crisis without space technologies. But too few people know how important space is for this knowledge and for our knowledge to learn more about what can we also do, not only for climate protection and to stop climate crisis, but also to minimize the things that come with the warming, with the global warming. So we have satellites that might be able to really see forest fire very much earlier than before, things like that. So I think it really goes very well together, green politics and space policies. That's why I'm very happy to be in charge of this topic now. And that's why we also appreciate that one of the accelerators of ESA is this green space accelerator. And that is definitely one of the priority for the government in Germany too, and will be a priority for our own space strategy that we're gonna develop in the next months.
So, how can Germany participate in that specific field? I mean, this green accelerator, and I had the chance to talk with Josef Aschbacher about that. I mean, he said it's a modeling, it is monitoring, just what you just said, but many of that happens without Germany. So
we are already very much engaged in these questions because we have also our own space program, as you probably know. And one of its outcomes is the start of a new climate satellite in April from Florida. It's going to start with a SpaceX rocket, and it's called NMAP. And this is a very new satellite which is able to really have gets us more details about Earth, and which might be very interesting for the way we do farming, for to learn about dryness and things like that in the Earth. And so we are really already part of this whole green space issue, and that is will be also a priority for the next years, and also in the way we support European projects, because we have as one very famous European space project Copernicus, and it is also a German priority to really guarantee that this can be fulfilled in a way that is planned. And as you might know, there are some problems with funding due to Brexit right now, and that is also one thing we are very much engaged from Germany, that we really want to see the full funding for the Copernicus program.
That's interesting to know. So, I mean, the European space was discussed last week in detail in Toulouse. I mean, not only in Toulouse. I mean, I've also seen you at the Munich Security Conference and potentially many other events. But Toulouse was this high-level preparation for this year's Ministerial Council in November. So, what are the big space themes for Europe, and what can be Germany's role?
As Germany, we have clear priorities, and one we already talked about. This is the whole thing around climate. The second one, and that was also part of the European meeting last week, is the whole thing about space traffic management and a sustainable orbit, if you want to say so. And the third point is all around new space and the question, how do we get to a really ecosystem of space activities and commercialization in the space sector in Europe, as we see it in other parts of the world already, and what can be a European way in this new space sector. This is the third priority. And in Toulouse, we discussed all the three of them. Green space was the ESA accelerator, and ESA was one big partner in Toulouse, of course, of the meeting, and then the EU activities with Breton's initiatives around also space traffic management, which we really support from the German side. Because the European level is very important to find kind of a European level playing field for space traffic management and for clear rules and for also clear surveillance, because to do space traffic management, first of all, you need to know what is going on there in orbit. And there is already the European Surveillance Initiative, and we support that going on. And then if you to come to further common rules in Europe, and then being able to also bring them in discussions on the level of the United Nations, because in the end, we really need international rules. Like the orbit is not a Wild West, but it should be kind of that we need a commitment. What are the rules to bring satellites into the orbit, and what comes with it, and as rules to also get them out of orbit again. So that is something that we are very much engaged, and we appreciate that the European Union has this initiative now going on. And then the third priority from our side, new space, is I think very closely connected to the European initiative for connectivity, which we discussed also in Toulouse last week. And I really think there are great chances coming with a secure connectivity initiative on the European level, which aims at bringing kind of an own satellite constellation into the orbit. And it was a good starting point last week in Toulouse, but it's important that we really need a broad discussion between and among the member states now. What are exactly the goals of these initiatives, and where are the what are exactly the things we need, and what is maybe already there? And we will be from the German side very active in bringing our perspectives into this discussion.
I mean, prepared as I am, I have all the 3 topics on my list to go into a little bit deeper, and we also have our audience being very engaging with asking questions already. So, I mean, new space, let's start there. I know many have a problem with this term, but I mean, as we can't find something better, I would stick with it. So in the recent year, this sector boomed in Europe, but especially in Germany. I mean, and we are very proud of it. And I mentioned earlier the big footsteps to fill. I mean, it comes with this very good politics that fostered the entire market. But will that continue? And will it be funded, supported furthermore by the government? So where are we going in that?
Yeah, of course. We see the micro launcher initiative as a very positive example how we can play an active role from the state side, but also to get then raised also private money that comes with it. So this is absolutely a way we want to go in future also in the new space sector. And of course, we still have the micro launcher initiative going on, and then we're going to see what kind of similar initiatives we can start on the German side. I mean, something with smaller satellites. All this sector is something where it might be a good idea to do a similar initiative in future. And I mean, I fully agree that this was a very successful idea in the past that we should just follow up on, because if we have seen now the European result where we had this initiative where we had 3 German startups in the top 4 of the European competition on launches. And I think that is a very successful project from the German side, and definitely something we should follow up on.
So, besides the small launchers or micro launchers, so where do you see the value of new space for Germany? I mean, I know that STEM or the education part is also something what is very important for you with coming with your background into that. So are we using space, or can we use space for fostering STEM to getting us more resources? So what is the status of the political discussion in that direction? And I know that federal politics meets the state politics here when it comes to education.
New space is, for me, in the first step, the kind of ecosystem that is driven by startups, smaller firms, companies that are very dynamic, very agile, and therefore are in the opportunity to really do kind of disruptive innovation and kind of a little bit are quicker movers than maybe the bigger actors in the sector. And that is, for me, the important thing, that we have an ecosystem that is composed by both sides, the classic space companies that we have and that are strong and important also for the European ecosystem, but also the smaller companies, the startups, the new firms that bring kind of dynamic into the whole sector. And I think both sides together are a big chance for Europe to really have good and successful technologies and very new developments in the space sector that makes us able to be an important partner for international cooperation. And I think that is the whole perspective we need, that we need a very active and a space sector with high expertise and interesting technologies that gives us the opportunity to be interesting for international cooperation.
It's an interesting way you're on, and I would like to take two questions into that topic from Mark Meyer and Valerie Chartain. So, when will you release the new strategy, or the new space strategy, I assume? And then Mark asked about the German space law, what was also proposed, which complies to the long-term sustainability guidelines of the UN, which we, as part of the UN COPUs, are signed or adapted, so to say.
Yeah, so we're going to start with a new strategy right away, more or less. And I think we are in the middle of a very important space year, 2022 for Europe, with the ministerial conference in November. So that might, for us, be a very good opportunity to be with our strategy before this important event. This is what we plan right now, that we have a process for the strategy. And I think it is very important that we have kind of a transparent process and, of course, an interactive process. So there are going to be some opportunities to bring own perspectives in for more or less everyone. And this is going to happen in the next weeks and months. And then we hope that we're going to be finished with a strategy in fall, and we can present it before the ministerial conference in November. So this is an important year for Europe and also for Germany in space policies. And I'm really looking forward to this process, because I think we're gonna really have the chance to also really discuss the strategy and then have a result where many perspectives are brought together. And that is something that for me is very important, that we offer these opportunities to bring different perspectives in. And then the second questions about the space law. This is definitely something we're gonna also follow up on the discussions we had in the past. It was kind of also a difficult issue in the last years. I'm in the happy position that I wasn't part of these difficult processes in the past, so I can kind of bring in a fresh perspective on the space law. And I mean, we're gonna check what is the right level for what kind of specific regulation. So I think we're going to need some regulation on the national level. And we, as I said before, going to bring in our perspectives on the European level and international level. And I think this all has to go together. And of course, there are some regulations that are needed on a national level, and we're going to discuss these within the government in the next month. And then we're going to see what is our task and what can we bring in the discussions on European and international level. And then I think we can hopefully have a good bundle of regulations that are a good basis for a space sector in Europe, because I think regulation can make it hopefully easier also for people in space sector, also for startups and others, to have kind of reliable rules for their activities.
Okay, I'm very pleased to hear that there's a drive towards that. Something what came in on that topic over the last months, I would say, was also driven by your European colleague Niklas Ninas, and I mentioned our radio interview with him earlier, and he is proposing European space legislation together with a team of space lawyers and policymakers. Is that something you consider as well as a template for Germany, being part of Germany, or because European law, national law, I mean, that does not have to be harmonized, but it would be wonderful when it comes to space, of course, but I know it's a wild dream.
No, that's why I said it's a process on different levels, and I think all of them are important. And that is why we're going to check what are our tasks in Germany for national regulation and what are the tasks on the European level. And I think that should definitely go together. And the ideal outcome would be that we have kind of a harmonized regulation within Europe, and they are kind of different approaches, but I don't think they are contradictory. They can go together as we kind of have an idea where we're going to go in Germany, and then also bring this in on the European level to maybe have other member states that go in a similar direction, so that we can have this kind of level playing field in the end. But I think it's a process, and every actor can try to drive it in a good direction, so that we're going to have a result that is helpful for everyone in the end. But definitely there are processes needed on the national level as well as on the European level.
Okay, great. I'll leave you with that here, and we will, of course, closely monitor as close as we can and report about it. I mean, the next big topic, and you mentioned that, is the EU or ESA, our topic of STM, space traffic management. I mean, as part of space sustainability, it's very close to our heart and part of our reporting at SpaceWatch.Global. But coming back, what is STM is such a huge term. What is your understanding of the STM initiative, and what can be Germany's active role in that, and what are we bringing to the table? I know Gestra and so on, but what else can we put in?
I mean, Germany has brought in already a lot, because it was one of the priorities of the European presidency of the German presidency of the European Union Council it was last year, I think.
Yes.
Yes, so that was a priority for Germany already, and I think we could, and also the last government could really support that the European Union makes it a priority in space regulation. So I think that was an important step already done by the German government. And of course, now we're gonna discuss the different aspects of the initiative. I mentioned already the surveillance part with the space surveillance and tracking capability that the European Union has already established, and that needs to go on now. And the question of standards that are needed for actors, for people or firms that bring satellites into the orbit. What kind of standards do they need to fulfill in future? I think that is a very important discussion for the next years. And of course, Germany will be engaged in this discussion.
Great to know. I mean, the last point I would like to touch is, I think, very sensible in a multiple way. So it's a European Secure Connectivity Initiative, or I mean, not just the matter is very sensible, of course, but I mean, it looks at first like a great idea. And you mentioned the new space companies, the new space consortia, where also a huge German participation is in one of them. So what is Germany's position in that? So how strong can you support them?
We definitely want to be very active now in shaping the goals of the Connectivity Initiative, because I think this is a very important. It's one thing that we try to be quick in launching this initiative from the European side, but it's the other thing to do it in a right way, that it's really sustainable. Also on the economic side, but for the whole system. So we think it's very important that we give the new space studies, for example, that you mentioned, a chance to bring their results in this initiative. And so far we see that sometimes the initiative wants to be a little bit too quick, and that the Commission tries to define the goals before we have the results, for example, of the new space study. And so we're going to urge that we will be able to bring the results of the study in, and that we really have a very good and precise process among the member states to define the demands for a satellite constellation. Is it secure connectivity between states? And I mean, there we have already the GovSat initiative, and we have the principle of pooling and sharing capacities that are already there in the member states. Or is it maybe more the demand for broadband internet in maybe areas where we don't see it so far? Might it be the Arctic, or might it be a nice landscape in Germany or other states where we have these places that don't really have access to broadband internet so far. So this is very important from our perspective, to have a very good process here. And that is what we want to bring in into this initiative right now. We see it very promising, because it can be a big chance for the whole space sector in Europe, but we do have to make it right, and in the right way, and with the right goals, and in a way that it follows kind of the idea of new space, that we also have private money in it, and that it's not only like a public initiative where we really need to get new public paid satellites into the orbit every several years, and without having a clear demand for the services. So that would be the negative scenario. But I think it's positive. There is a possibility to really make it a successful initiative, and that is what we aim for from the German side, and that is what we want to bring in from the German government into this European process now.
It's interesting that you're saying that this initiative is moving so quick. On the other hand, we see on STM, we all have the feeling it's moving much too slow. I mean, seeing the LTS process and so on. So, I mean, yeah, we will see. We have a number of questions, and I'll try to pick up a few of them. But my last point is, we didn't spoke about humanity in space so far, but what is your vision, or how do you envision humanity in space in the upcoming decade? Is there a place for human spaceflight? I mean, you said earlier you talked with Matthias already on the ISS, and I know Alex, you met at least, or in Brussels, or on other occasions. So, and then there's of course the Star Wars versus Star Trek thing that you mentioned in Dieter's interview. So I can't leave you without talking about that. So all on the vision side in space, where's our place?
I mean, I definitely see like our astronauts, how they talk about their experiences in orbit on the ISS. It's fascinating and it's inspiring. And I think human exploration is something different than robots in space or something like that. And I think that is important to realize. And there is definitely an important role for this kind of human exploration. And I think it's also positive that Europe really is very much engaged in the whole sector of space on the, let's say, climate science, satellite side, but also on the exploration side. And we need to define and find our role of Europe in this whole perspective for the next years in a changing space sector. And I think that is also something we see definitely with the commercialization with SpaceX. The sector is changing and we need a process in Europe to discuss about our role for these things in future. That is why I appreciate that we're going to have a working group or an expert group starting by ESA, discussing this European strategy for exploration in future. I think that is a good idea. And coming to the Star Wars versus Star Trek question, it's just a pity I've rarely seen any Star Trek. But I see it's a problem. Maybe I need to change this soon. But I really enjoyed watching Star Wars this year, actually, together with my daughter. She's 9 years old, and it's just good to see how a little girl is also fascinating by this story and this, exploring new worlds. And I think that what is fascinating for all of us in the whole space sector.
That's right. That's right. But you see that we take that very sensible. So which part you are from. However, you talked about exploration, and I know someone in the audience is burning for one question: as when do we see the first German female astronaut in space?
Yeah, I hope soon. I really follow very closely the current process by ESA for the new astronauts. And what I hear is that there are many, many more women than before that applied and that are in the process now. And so I'm just going to be very happy to see some of them being our next astronauts. And of course, it would be great if a German female astronaut would be among them. But also, I think our one and only ESA female astronaut right now would be very happy to be joined by some other women from Europe in general. And but I think it's a positive sign that we have many more applications now from women. And definitely, I would like to support women to get into space, and maybe I can also help a little bit to show that we need some women in this sector, and that's a good and interesting field for women as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's go to a few questions here. Christian Rust asked, what is German government's position on the BDI initiative of the rocket launch site in the North Sea? Is it something you would like to take up, or you say next one?
No, I think it's a European question. It's not a German question in the first place, but I think it's a European question. What kind of launch places or spaceports are needed in Europe to have a new space sector that is very dynamic? And I think there we have to check all the different opportunities and possibilities we have. We see in Sweden some activities, in Norway and Scotland. Norway and Scotland are not European Union anymore, but I think these are countries we have very close collaborations with, and there we also should look very carefully what kind of chances are there for spaceports and for our startups to get some start capacities there. And with the North Sea, there are, of course, also some questions coming with them, with like the whole thing of wind parks also in the Northern Sea. So I think there is a process still going on, and my priority is that we have some spaceports in Europe that are a good chance for startups, and it doesn't has to be in Germany. It could, but it's not the only point that is important.
Great, thank you very much. The last question I would like to take from Johannes Schmidt from EURA. Are you planning to collaborate with other policy domains, such as the Federal Ministry of Agriculture or Environment, Nature Conservation, and so on? If yes, how? And I think that's an important one, because there's also some heritage in talking about the space policy in the last 4 attempts we had.
Of course, I mean, collaboration within the government is always a good idea. And of course, we're going to also do that in space policies, and agriculture is a good idea, because I have already mentioned the whole questions around farming and chances with data from space to do a more sustainable farming. That's definitely one point. And of course, we also have to deal with all other parts of governments for our ideas for a new space law, other questions, and that we're gonna definitely do. And I think it's also a chance to get more visibility for the whole issue, and that is something I think that is needed, because many people still think about space just about some fancy rockets that don't have any specific value for their own life, but that's not the case. There are very important things that come from space that are important for our life on Earth, and I think it's important to tell that to people in the government, but also in the society. And that is also something that I really want to push, to have this debate about the value of space for our daily life on Earth.
No, that's great, and I mean that goes along with the STEM question I mentioned earlier. So how do you envision that? And I mean, we know that we are addressing the 1% of people that are interested in space, also with that with the outreach we do. But how to reach the other 99%? I mean, we are open for any ideas, and I think that's the same goes for you. Thank you very much. I mean, I know that we run over time already. Our production team raised the flags. Thank you very, very much for this inspiring talk and being my guest. And I'm handing back to Chiara.
Thank you very much. It was truly very interesting to listen to this talk. And before we finish for today, I want to quickly give a rundown of our next events that are coming up. So this week, on the 24th of February, we have our very first Space Café Austria by Judith Delaney with Andrea Kleinsasser on Austria's engagement at UN COPUS, and this will be in German. A day later, on the 25th of February, we have our next Space Café Canada by Dr. Jessica West, and she will be joined by Paul Mayer on the topic of if arms control is rocket science. The week after that, we have our next 33 minutes with Emmanuel David and Dr. Minu Rathnasabati on the current status of the space sustainability rating. And then on the 4th of March, there's the next Space Café Benelux, hosted by Banu Bazingi and me. And on the 8th of March, we have our 33 minutes with Simonetta Di Pipo. On the 10th of March, there's the next Space Café Australia by Annie Handmer. As always, all our events are going to be online on Eventbrite, so check there and register. And as always, we love to hear your feedback, so please check in with us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Don't forget to sign up for our daily and our bi-weekly newsletters. And if you want to treat yourselves to something special, become a Space Watcher today or help us with a supporter program. Thank you again to Anna for being here for this inspiring talk, for being our guest. Thanks again to the entire teams behind the scenes for doing that great job week in and week out. I hope that you all stay safe and stay healthy. And also a huge thank you to our audience. Thank you for asking so many great questions and for being so engaged. I hope to see you all in the next weeks. And in the meantime, visit our website and follow us on social media. And don't forget, become a space watcher. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anna, thank you very much. It was a wonderful talk.